There are various names that are applied to the entity that is opposed to the will of the Christian interpretation of God. These names in English would be Lucifer, the devil, Satan, and even sometimes Beelzebub. Although these names are used interchangeably, some of them are not interchangeable as they represent different ideas or represent different origins. The Christian mythology of this entity is fairly well known, an archangel named Lucifer who led a rebellion against Yahweh and was cast down from heaven along with the rebellious minions that assisted him. This idea is taken from Isaiah chapter 14. The name Lucifer, the fallen angel of light, is a combination of two Latin words, lucium meaning light, and fer meaning to bring or to bear. In the Vulgate, the phrase is Lucifer cumain oraberis, meaning morning star that used to rise early. The name Lucifer is used in very few English versions of the Bible. Among these would be the King James and the Geneva Bible. Lucifer in the Septuagint is the word phosphorus. Phosphorus is the ancient Greek name of the planet Venus before sunrise, and in Hebrew, the phrase is O shining one, O son of dawn, or Halel ben Shishar, which happens to be a very interesting phrase. In Canaanite mythology, El has sexual intercourse with two women, and the women are given the opportunity to be daughters of El or wives of El. They choose to be wives of El, and he impregnates them. One of these women gives birth to Shelim, god of the dusk, and the other gives birth to Shishar, goddess of the dawn. Halel does not have a known Canaanite reference. This motif also calls on Greek mythology, Phaethon, son of the dawn goddess, who is the titan Eos. In one version of this legend, Phaethon was struck down to earth by Zeus for his presumptuousness, but this story likely takes on a Babylonian theme. In Assyrian and Babylonian mythology, Ishtar is the goddess of fertility, love, war, and sex, and is represented by the planet Venus, the morning star. Halel has its root word in the Hebrew word halal, meaning prideful or boastful. The importance of this will become apparent shortly. Isaiah is written in three parts. The part of Isaiah we are interested in is chapters 1 through 39, known as 1st Isaiah or Proto-Isaiah, with the timeline that starts around 739 BCE, and this specific text written with the time frame of the end of the reign of King Ahaz, who died around 716-715 BCE. This would have been shortly after the fall of the northern kingdom of Israel to the Neo-Assyrian Empire in 721 BCE. The southern kingdom of Judah became a vassal state of Assyria. Assyria was on the decline and would fall to the combined forces of the Babylonians, Medes, Scythians, and Cimmerians in 612 BCE. These passages in Isaiah are directed towards the Assyrians as indicated in verse 25 and likely to Sargon II, king of Assyria, who was bound to be struck down to the underworld. Verses 1 through the first half of verse 4, as well as verses 22 and 23, which make reference to Babylon, were likely added after the fact during the Babylonian exile. Assyria was a destroyer of nations, as referenced in verse 12. When the Assyrians would conquer, they would scatter the remaining population. This would prevent rebellion. Isaiah 14 is a song of scorn to Assyria using mythological imagery, possibly referencing the boastful son of Ishtar, king of Assyria. Through Jeremiah, we know that the Israelites were aware of Assyrian and Babylonian mythology. Beelzebub is a name mentioned in the Synoptics meaning Lord of the House, likely a reference to a house of demons. Beelzebub is represented as the ruler of demons in the New Testament and is called Beelzebub, the chief god of the Philistine city of Ekron in the Old Testament. Beelzebub is probably a corruption of Beelzebub. Baal means master or lord, and Beelzebub is recognized as the Lord of the Flies. The name is likely a deliberate corruption by the author from the name Beelzebul, meaning Lord of Glory, Domination, or Majesty. In 2 Kings chapter 1, Beelzebub was to be solicited for the diagnosis of Ahaziah's injury. He fell through lattice work. The solicitation of Beelzebub would bring a confrontation with Elijah. For this idolatry, Ahaziah would die. Ahaziah was the king of Israel after the death of his father, King Ahab. Jezebel, wife of Ahab and daughter of the king of the Sidons, had introduced Baal worship into Israel, which leads to a confrontation between the Baal priest and Elijah in 1 Kings chapters 18 verses 19 through 40. This leads to the slaughter of the Baal priest and eventually the death of Jezebel, incited by Ahab's general Jehu. It must be kept in mind that Kings is considered part of the Deuteronomist history, placing it in the time frame of King Josiah, who was king of Judah from around 641 to 609 BCE. This is emphasized by the finding of the Book of the Law, commonly referred to as Deuteronomy, during the reign of Josiah. The Deuteronomist authors displayed an open contempt to Baal worship, blaming the fall of Israel and Judah on this idolatry. Josiah was a strict Yahwist, but there is only one side of the story, however, and that is Judah's side of the story. By this point in time, Israel had already been destroyed by the Assyrians as previously mentioned. Of course, what we do know from history paints a completely different story than what the Bible says regarding the fall of Israel and the fall of Judah.